You know, when you go online and you see a European complain about Trump, the dictator, you should remind him that at least the Supreme Court of the United States has struck down many of the Trump's tariffs and other decisions. Meanwhile, in the European Union, there doesn't seem to be strong checks and balances to Ursula von der Leyen. Interesting how no one calls her a dictator. You know why that is? It's because they say, well, the Europeans, they vote for the parliament, so it's democratic. Well, it seems that when the parliament doesn't want something to happen, but Ursula von der Leyen insists, the will of the people, the actual individuals that got elected by the people, are told to shut the fuck up and put up with it. Now, why is this causing a lot of problems? What exactly is this Mercosur deal? Well, the European Parliament has been incredibly toxic to the farmers. So much so that there's this internet meme about the EU mentality, which is fuck the people that make our food. And in most countries in Europe, you will notice that in the rural area, people are extremely Eurosceptic, while the people that adore the European Union happen to be in large cities. And there's a reason for that. But first and foremost, let's talk about how they actually fuck with the farmers. You see, the European Union gives grants. In other words, free money. You can access it, right? They consider this to be something magnanimous that they do. It's the generosity of the European Union to help the farmer. The problem is that if you take a grant, it comes associated with various strings. In some cases, environmentalist measures, like you have to plant certain things. In some cases, they actually force you, like the European Union forces you not to plant anything or to plant stuff that you know it doesn't sell. But the thing is, like, if you want the money, you have to do what they say. And so here's the problem, right? Because you would think it's a moral decision. It's like, why take the devil's money then? Just do whatever you want. Well, the problem with that is that you actually live in a competitive environment as a farmer. You have neighbors, you have other people, and if you don't take the money, like, that's fine, but they do. And if they do, then they get to have better tractors, they get to have better relationships with supermarkets, they get to expand their business. And so you're kind of forced to do that, but once you do that, you become a slave to the EU. And so when the European Union passes a decision that's actually catastrophic for farming, you can't say no anymore because you took the deal 10 years ago. And so this is why, like, people already assume that the European Union is malicious towards its own farmers. There are speculations as to why that is. A lot of individuals believe that they just want the land, which may actually be true, right? Like, if a farmer finds it very difficult to keep farming, like, he will sell, and then a corporation, a massive conglomerate, will buy his farm. So you're moving away from, like, the family farming into mass corporate type of farming that, again, it's a lot easier for the European Union to regulate them. So they probably prefer that. It's also important to point out that farming, unlike other professions, is not just a job. It's a way of life. So for a farmer, it's not like being an IT consultant or an engineer or a person working in HR. For a farmer, it's what his father did, what his grandfather did, what his great-grandfather did. And again, it's an entire way of life. And so fucking with that, people feel violated in a way that city folk never get to experience. So there is this animosity. Now, what exactly is this Mercosur deal, and why exactly are farmers concerned? Well, the European Union, as I mentioned before, like, they regulate farmers, right? Like, you need to have certain environmentalist measures. You need to have certain minimum wage that you pay for your employees. You need to have certain packages, so on and so forth. All these regulations, they cost money. Right? So, like, for a farmer, let's say, in order to produce the crop, he needs to spend $100. Now, he could probably produce the same crop for $25. But, like, all of the regulations, all of the paperwork, all of the environmentalist protections, everything adds up. And so he produces it for 100 and then he has to sell it for 150 because like he needs to have a profit so that he can afford to buy seeds for the next plantation and also upgrade his agricultural gear, so on and so forth, right? But if the European Union imports stuff from unregulated places, right, like people that do not benefit from the minimum wage that the European Union forces, that do not benefit from the environmentalist policies, well, they obviously like can make the same for cheaper, right? And when the European person, the city dweller, goes to the supermarket, he probably sees the exact same product from his country at the price and from Mercosur at the cheaper price, right? So like, why would he buy the product from his country? And this is why the farmers are panicking, because it's not that they couldn't make the product cheaper, is that they can't. Like the European Union doesn't let them. And at the same time, the European Union imports from other places. So the European Union is definitely like subsidizing someone else's farmers. Like they're sabotaging their own agricultural industry. This is what the farmers are basically trying to say. And notice how this is not even discussed at the television, right? Like when you look in Europe at any news network, it's like, well, these farmers again are angry, they're upset. And you may have like some person say, well, if they're upset, why did they took the EU money? And it's like, okay, but like even if they wouldn't have taken the EU money, why do they have to pay a minimum wage if they can find people that are willing to work for less? Why do they have to do this environmentalist policies when China doesn't give a fuck about them? Mercosur certainly doesn't give a fuck about them, right? Like, they don't discuss these things. And finally, and this is also important, farming is not like the IT industry where a code from China is the same like a code from India and is the same like a code from the United States. In other words, if it works, right? No, like farming is entirely dependent on the weather. And so you can have a drought in Europe, right? And all of a sudden, the market gets inundated by stuff from Mercosur. And the European farmer, like, he literally cannot sell the few things that he managed to grow. And he finds it unfair, right? Like, he definitely finds it unfair. The main problem is that if this will happen, like, systemically, what can take place over 2 or 3 decades, is that more and more European farmers get out of a business, right? They either have to stop farming and do something else, so they reorganize the industry, and eventually you will have less farmers in Europe. Now, what will happen if Mercosur, I don't know, like wants to raise prices, or they don't want to continue the deal, or anything like that, or maybe they experience a drought, and so like there's not enough to export to the European Union. Well, what will happen is obviously like you may actually have a modern famine in the EU, or the prices may skyrocket. This is why people are legitimately concerned. Like, the European Union seems to constantly just not want to produce anything, right? Like, it keeps sabotaging its own industry. Like, when it comes to industry, it's like, okay, we need to import from China. When it comes to defense, we need to import from America. We're in NATO. When it comes for social media, we're going to use American infrastructure and we're going to regulate it. Now, apparently, when it comes for food, we can rely on Mercosur. And so, like, the question is, like, okay, but, like, what are you producing? And what will happen if, like, 20 years from now, the world will go, like, why do we need to put up with these idiots? Like, what exactly do they do? What if we all boycott them, right? Like, what if the Americans get fed up with the EU shit of regulating their social media, and you have, like, all of Silicon Valley just region blocking the EU, and they will do this knowing that the EU will cock? What if China does the same, right? If China goes like, okay, well, we're going to boycott the EU. And like, they know it will have to be a short-term boycott. Like, it doesn't even have to be like years in the making. It just has to be enough to prove a point. And so like, you end up from a continent that managed to conquer the world, that had the logistics and the infrastructure required in order to like send people all across the world, into something that just likes to regulate and legislate the entire world. And the thing is, like, what happens when people just stop putting up with it? Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.